Right, so like most of you lot, I use the website BOXREC on a regular basis, and their rankings are done on a point scoring system, meaning that their heavyweight rankings look like this, with Oleksandr Usyk as the number 1, Daniel Dubois as the number 2, Agit Kabayel in at 3rd, number 4, Joseph Parker, Fabio Wardley at 5th, Anthony Joshua 6th, Tyson Fury 7th, Lawrence Bakole 8th, Murat Gassiev 9th, and Michael Hunter 10th. Now, listen, in whatever order I would rejuggle a few of them, there are a few of those names there that should not be in a heavyweight top 10. There are 1 or 2 names there that have not recorded a top win at heavyweight. But as I say, it is done so on a point scoring ranking system, so I understand. And if you're maybe an inactive fighter, you're going to slip down. If you're a fighter like Tyson Fury who hasn't been inactive but has lost in the best of best fights, then you're going to slip down the system. And if you're a champion like Lawrence Bakole, who has been elevated up from bridgerweight, you're going to be high on that list. Ultimately, though, whatever order you have it in, for those of you who watch boxing, you will know that in whatever order, is not the top 10 heavyweight boxers right now today. So here is my top 10 heavyweights right now today when it comes to pure ability and just the chance of winning that they each had if we had one big heavyweight Royal Rumble. And it's, I suppose, a mixture of what they've already done but what I believe they can go on to do, what I believe that they still have the capability to do. So you could have a fighter that has done quite a lot, like Deontay Wilder, reigned for a long time, a lot of WBC world heavyweight title defenses, but I think is washed up now. So although he's fighting actively and he's done a lot in the past, that doesn't mean he's going to make my list. So here is my list, and we'll start from the bottom and work our way up. Right, so I'm going to give you guys a few spoilers here, and I'm going to rule out a few fighters in giving you lot my thought pattern behind this 10th spot. And it was really a mixture between the likes of Fabio Wardley, Justice Hooney, which it might not have really made sense because he's just had his head caved in by Fabio Wardley. Obviously, you've got the likes of Zhilei Zhang, but he does really blow hot on cold and gasses in every single fight. Jarrell Big Baby Miller, but we never really know where his head's at or where his peds are at. You've got so many guys knocking about. Del Boy, who has literally fought everyone. But although I know he is a bit of an enigma, I am going to give it to the heavyweight world champion of sparring, Martin Bakole. I know that his stock is low right now, coming off of a second round blowout against Joseph Parker and then a fight against F.A. Ajagba, which most people believe F.A. Ajagba did enough to nick on the scorecards. But I think if you get the best version of Martin Bakole turn up, that is a problem, and that is a man that can beat more or less anyone that is ranked above him on this list on his day. He has a really, really good shot selection for a big man, quite fast hands. I believe that he takes quite a good shot and is very much willing to give a good shot back, and he will have confidence if even 10% of his sparring stories are true when he gets in there with some of these bigger names that he's apparently done all of these numbers on in sparring. Now, just quickly, when I'm giving my top 10, from 10th, and you know what, I could go lower. I could do a top 15 and say from 15th all the way until number 4 or 5, I'm saying anyone can beat anyone. But in at number 9, I am going with Filip Hrgovic. Like, Filip Hrgovic could quite easily beat an Anthony Joshua, couldn't he? But he doesn't have the resume of an Anthony Joshua. He hasn't got it right on the night as many times in big occasions as an Anthony Joshua. So although it's very easy to say that, they are just words. But it's not like he hasn't been in with some top guys. Daniel Dubois, I will always give Filip Hrgovic credit for that fight because I do think he had a really good fight, start to that fight, and was doing really well in that fight. Obviously, Zhilei Zhang, a lot of people thought it was a controversial decision. I didn't think it was as controversial as people thought, although I could see a way how you could see Zhang winning the fight, just about, nicking it on points. Joe Joyce is another one, and probably the most dangerous of all of these men, a man that every man knows to fear, and it's former David Haye foe Mark Demori. Now, the job Hrgovic did on Demori was something special. It makes me want to put him higher, but I'm not going to go over the top. He really would need to be a Ebenezer Tete or someone like that for me to really put him up there, pound for pound wise. No, I just feel like Hrgovic could pull off a win over someone like a Joseph Parker on his day. And when you look at that Daniel Dubois fight, as much credit as I give Daniel Dubois, fuck me, I have not seen that many headbutts go in a fight without a fighter having a point deducted in such a long fight. And when you factor in that the fight was eventually stopped on cuts, and then you look at the job that Daniel Dubois did on Anthony Joshua, you kind of look back on Filip Hrgovic's performance and think, well, actually, you weren't doing all that bad, were you, really? I don't think you actually were. And do you know what? The flashy knockouts probably won't come from Filip Hrgovic, but he does the basics quite well. Those fundamentals are there. He's got a very good jab. He's got a little bit of the old Vitaly Klitschko style about him. I just think he's got something there, so I'd have him in my top 10. Now, I've mentioned Anthony Joshua, and he is going to go in for me at number 8. AJ is game as a badger, and you have to give it to him, because I remember when he was first coming through, that temperament, that heart, desire, determination, the ability to swing a fight when things got tough, that was one of the main things that I questioned myself, and that's something that I definitely don't question anymore. I've always said that Anthony Joshua has poor powers of recovery, and I'm not going to go back on that, but I do believe that he's got a higher fight IQ than people give him credit for, and when linked up with Ben Davison, that fight IQ can come out, and in certain fights will come out. So in certain fights, I still think that he will be a problem. The problem for AJ is there is now a blueprint to beat him, and many heavyweights will try and follow that blueprint. Many heavyweights might get chinned on the way in while trying to follow that blueprint, but nevertheless, from now on out, his career is going to get harder and harder, because the opponents are going to become more and more ambitious. But I do still believe he is a physical specimen. And when I look at him in comparison to, let's say, for example, a Deontay Wilder, his body has not broke down to that extent or anywhere near. I mean, he's coming off keyhole surgery right now, but I'd still say he's fresher than a Wilder, than a White, than a lot of his compatriots around from that time. And because of the fact that he does have that big fight experience, he does have that punch power, he does have decent ring IQ, he does have a good coach, and he is still a physical specimen, I believe that AJ can still pull out big performances on big nights, and that's why I would have him in here at number 8. Right, number 7, fuck it, I'm rolling the dice and going with it. I am going to go Moses Itauma. I honestly think as a nation we are so lucky to have this kid on our hands, because he is the future, I am telling you right now, and I would fancy him to be every man that I've already listed. Like, if Itauma was to fight Anthony Joshua right now, I think the hardcore boxing fans would be picking Moses Itauma. He's so calculated, so composed, so wise beyond his years. He hits so hard, he's explosive, he has bad intentions, but he won't make those bad intentions be forced or rushed. He will wait for you to commit, and then he will punish you for trying to do so. I know that I'm on the hype train, but I know that I'm going to be right to do so, because this man's going to make it all the way to the top. Right, so far I have gone in the mindset of every single one of these fighters on their day to the best that I believe that they can produce so far. So, for example, like I said, I'm not going, 2005 15 Deontay Wilder or something like that. I'm saying right now, how good a performance can you get out of them? So now I'm about to speak about a man that I watched live just last summer and hasn't fought again since. And in at number 6, a lot of people aren't going to like this, I'm going to go with Andy Ruiz Jr. Now, I know there's a chance that it's gone, but I am a romanticist. And when I was watching him out in LA against Jarrell Miller for 3-4 rounds, I was thinking, oh my God, Andy Ruiz is back and he's still got it. And he is going to be the perfect addition into this heavyweight division, because I just don't know where this man lands. I don't know how good he is. I know how good he was a decade ago. But then all of a sudden, Miller takes over. And you start to think, oh, all of those years of not living the life and eating, piling on the pounds, not training properly, are coming back to bite you in the arse. But then after the fight, you looked at his hand, it was mashed up, and he said that he broke it around the 3rd or 4th round, which is when I thought that Miller started to take over the fight. So I have a lot of question marks over where he is right now. But one thing I will say is he's 35 years old, and for a heavyweight, that is not old. It really isn't. You've got heavyweights that can box for 5-6 years at the top level, and yes, they will be the ones that have lived their lives, but I'm only on about for one night here, and I believe that if you can get Andy Ruiz Jr. on his best for one night with no broken hands right now, he can beat probably every man that I've listed, maybe apart from Moses Itauma, depending on how good he turns out to be. So, yeah, Andy Ruiz, I know I'll get a lot of stick for this one, but I just do believe that he is still a really good fighter with so much to offer. Really, really quick hands. Very, very versatile. Yes, he obviously does need to be against a certain type of fighter that isn't going to try and dance around and box him on the back foot, but in certain types of fights, I think he can be really exciting. In at number 5, a man who I can't praise enough, but I do believe is starting to get his praise by the public, and that is Agit Kabayel. He beat Chisora and then went quiet for the best part of a decade. Thank God for the Saudis and His Excellency, because if it hadn't have been for old Turkey Al Sheikh, we might still not know what an Agit Kabayel even is, because that night in the casino in Monte Carlo all those years ago against Chisora feels like a lifetime ago, and I knew that he had been boxing in between, but I didn't know to what extent. I didn't really know what was going on with him. So when I saw that he was put on one of the Riyadh season cards against Makhmudov, I thought that, okay, this one could be a competitive fight. They've obviously brought Agit Kabayel in as the opponent, but I know that he was quite crafty back in the day. I picked him to win that one. He did. He then goes on to beat Frank Sanchez. He then goes on to not only stop Zhilei Zhang, but show the absolute guts of a burglar, the heart of a lion, being dropped by one of the pound-for-pound heaviest punchers in boxing, and not only getting back up to win, getting back up to beat that man up. From the point that Agit Kabayel got back up against Zhilei Zhang, he put a beat down on the Chinese heavyweight, absolutely battering his body and stopping him. In at number 4, I've got Joseph Parker, and do you know what? Achievements-wise, you've really got to give it to this man. He won a world title over 10 years ago, fighting Andy Ruiz, another top guy. He has been in there with so many of the best fighters. He is having an Indian summer to his career, an Indian summer that makes me question if he had been in there with the likes of an Anthony Joshua and a Dillian Whyte at this point of his career. Would we have seen similar fights, or would the outcomes of those fights have been completely different? And when he got stopped by Joe Joyce, I never anticipated him being able to have the run that he was about to go on, because once he linked up with former middleweight world champion Andy Lee, it went from strength to strength. And I honestly do believe that this is why you're now seeing fighters flock to the stable of Andy Lee, like a Hamza Shiraz, for example, and Ben Whittaker, because he is one of the best up-and-coming coaches in boxing, and he's getting the best out of Joseph Parker, who consistently now has been pulling off big upset wins and really affirming himself as one of the top heavyweights in today's division. Right, in at number 3, I have got Daniel Dubois. It's really close between him, Parker, and Kabayel, but Dubois has just been way more devastating in his wins, hasn't he? Like, Parker's win against Wilder was a huge upset at the time, but then we've seen Wilder go on since and look a bit short, and then obviously against Zhang, Parker won and looked good, but Zhang does gas out, and Parker had to get off the floor twice, and he did blast out Martin Bakole, but that was a Martin Bakole that had just travelled halfway across the world in skinny jeans. So at the same time, you know, I don't want to take credit away from Joseph Parker, by the way. I'm just telling you why you'd say Daniel Dubois' wins are a little bit better, because in Miller, Hrgovic, in AJ, he fought 3 men that he was the underdog against, 3 men that mentally felt they had an edge on him, and he pulled off 3 upset wins in big fashion, stopping all of them. So yeah, him against Joseph Parker, for example, I would have been fascinated by that fight. I'm gutted that we never got to see it, because I honestly couldn't give you an answer as to who wins that one. But as for now, Daniel Dubois, for me, the IBF heavyweight world champion, is the 3rd best heavyweight on the planet, and it's not gonna take a genius to work out who I've got in at number 2. Number 2, I have gone with Tyson Fury. So as well as the wins he's had in huge fights, I would still make Fury as a favourite against pretty much everyone in the division, but that's not me saying that he couldn't lose. I believe every heavyweight on their day, including Oleksandr Usyk, can lose. So Tyson Fury could be on the end of an upset loss, but if we're just going to put him up against any other man in the division, I would fancy him to be able to work out a game plan and formulate that in the ring to get the job done. And you've got to remember, he's just lost in 2 undisputed fights to Oleksandr Usyk. That is one of the greatest fighters that anyone of my age has had the pleasure of being able to watch. And I do think that the experience of sharing the ring with the Deontay Wilder of all those years ago, who was a serious threat, a 9-year unbeaten Vladimir Klitschko, and the work that he did with multiple coaches like Peter Fury and obviously Ben Davison before he linked up with Sugar Hill, puts him in such good stead against so many of the other heavyweights. And the elephant in the room at the moment is that he is retired, but let's be honest, it's surely just a matter of time now until we hear who he's going to fight and when he's going to come back. I'm really interested though to see what level of opposition he comes back against, because he might sit it out and he might wait for the Usyk Dubois winner and see how that one pans out and hope for a trilogy fight, possibly then with Usyk. But I don't know, with Tyson Fury, he usually likes a warm-up fight, and I would not at all be surprised to see him headline one of Frank Warren's DAZN shows, or possibly even to take a comeback fight on Netflix. But just quickly, I want to take 1 minute to tell you guys about new partner of the channel, Nyla Apparel. I was lucky enough to be sent some clothes by these lot around a month ago, and I've got to be honest with you, since receiving them, they have become my go-to for both t-shirts and now for tracksuits. Now, I would not vouch for something unless I truly believed in the product, and anyone that's seen me out and about around town will know that I am wearing the Nyla t-shirts all of the time. The first thing I noticed about them was how good the quality was, and then when speaking to the guys at Nyla, I found out that the money spent on material in comparison to what the actual t-shirts are sold for is probably about 10 times less than you would usually sell a t-shirt for that cost at. Basically, I'm of the opinion that they're spending about the same on materials as you do most t-shirts in flannels, but instead of paying 200 to 300 quid, you're paying about 10 times less than that. Instead, you're looking at £32 for the t-shirts, including free shipping, and just over £100 for the tracksuits. No shade thrown here, but the other day I had my eyes on a Nike tracksuit in JD Sports. I got it, I went to the checkout, and I was nearly at the point of having a heart attack when I found out that tracksuits, I always assumed, back in the day, growing up, were 100 quid. They're now costing over 200 quid, and these ones are exactly the same quality. So if you want a great fit at a great price for clothing that suits all occasions. Hit the link in the description and browse the Nyla website. Thanks again to Nyla Apparel for their support with the channel. Let's get back into the video. Which means at number 1, you have to put the Ukrainian genius in Oleksandr Usyk. I cannot commend this man for what he has done. He absolutely cleaned up the cruiserweight division. He even went back, I believe, to beat Tony Bellew after having maybe one heavyweight fight, because Tony Bellew had then won a vacant title. He goes back to heavyweight and then he cleans up at heavyweight. When he beat the likes of Derek Chisora, when he beat the likes of Anthony Joshua even, I still questioned his ability. I still questioned whether he could get a win over a Tyson Fury, because I thought, okay, you've just beat a very, very good big man, but you haven't beat a good big man that has the mind of a middleweight and that can do things that a middleweight can do, which is something that Oleksandr Usyk can do. Well, Oleksandr Usyk showed that he can do it better and more consistently. And as a Tyson Fury fan, that breaks my heart to have to say, but you call fair where fair is due. And fair play to Oleksandr Usyk. He is the number 1 right now. An unbelievable talent, and he is a fighter that in years to come we will look back on and we will tell our grandchildren and whatnot that we lived through his era. So there is my top 10 heavyweights right now. Let me know yours in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and I will see you all in the next one.